Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user CounterNecessary2597. Am I the a-hole for not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day? I'm 98.7% sure that I'm not the a-hole here, but if I'm wrong, I'm willing to admit it and learn from my mistakes. Our little boy will be 1 late this summer, so this was the first Mother's Day and Father's Day for both me and my husband. My husband asked what I wanted for Mother's Day. I didn't want or need anything big or expensive. All I asked for was for my husband to get up with the little guy and get him fed while I pumped and chilled. Breakfast in bed, just toast, scrambled eggs and coffee, then for us to take the little guy to the zoo for the first time, this was the main thing I was looking forward to, and then go to my favorite taco place for dinner. Between morning and afternoon naps, we have about 4 hours of awake time. The zoo is about 30 minutes away, so I had figured if we left as soon as he got up from his nap and ate, we'd have a couple of hours at the zoo and worst case, he could sleep in the car on the way home. We took my mom and my mother-in-law out to brunch the prior weekend to celebrate them. His mom on Saturday and my mom on Sunday. I also got them each a thoughtful little present and flowers to celebrate their first Mother's Day as grandparents. I arranged everything and told my mom and mother-in-law that we'd be celebrating on the actual day with just our little family and sent them a group chat, which included my husband, my dad and father-in-law just to make sure everyone is on the same page. My mother-in-law is very pushy and overbearing, so I didn't want there to be any surprises or confusion. The Saturday before Mother's Day, father-in-law sent my husband a text with a picture of all the mulch he just had delivered and said something like, "Gonna be a busy weekend," or something like that. Apparently, he had 300 bags of mulch. They have a very big yard with lots of flower beds. That night, my mother-in-law called my husband and asked him to come over first thing in the morning to help his dad move the bags of mulch to where they were going to be used. She said since we weren't going to the zoo until after little guy's nap, that husband could go over and help for a couple of hours and then come pick us up to go to the zoo. I was obviously not happy, but she guilted him and said father-in-law was going to end up hurting himself if he moved all that by himself and that it's not that big of a deal and should only take an hour or two. I told him his mom was doing this to try and get us to skip our plans and spend the day with them, but he kept saying it's not a big deal, saying his mom promised it would only take a couple of hours, etc., etc. I think most people know what happened. Husband went first thing in the morning, which means no breakfast in bed, and I had to get up to feed the little guy. I was kinda pissed, but whatever. I spent time with the little guy, then he went down for his morning nap. I texted my husband to let him know he should start wrapping things up. Then, when the little guy woke up 2 hours later, I called my husband to tell him I'd be ready to go as soon as I finished feeding the little guy. He told me it was taking longer than he expected, but that he'd hurry. Like an hour and a half later, husband called and said they weren't done, but he was getting ready to come home. It's a 15 to 20 minute drive from mother-in-law and father-in-law's house. At that point, we'd missed the window to make it to the zoo, so I told him to just stay there and finish and not worry about Mother's Day, since he hadn't done a single thing I asked for. I don't think there was any doubt in his mind how pissed I was. A little later, his mom called and said, since we decided not to go to the zoo, that me and the little guy should go hang out with her while the boys finished with the mulch. I admit that I was pretty pissy and told her I had no interest in spending time with the people who decided to ruin my first Mother's Day. I ended up staying home and ordering pizza and binging Netflix. When husband got back home, he was all apologetic and asked how he could make it up. I was still pissed and told him he could make it up by not ruining my first Mother's Day. I also told him he should plan on spending Father's Day with his mom and dad because me and the little guy were going to go celebrate Father's Day with my mom and dad. Since Mother's Day, mother-in-law has been texting and calling, but I've been keeping conversations short and just giving very bland, generic responses. My husband has been apologizing and asking what he can do, but honestly, I don't want to bother. I know it's just a day and we can celebrate anytime, like we did with my mom and my mother-in-law. But it was my first Mother's Day, and it's not like I asked for anything expensive or difficult. The only difficult thing is he's incapable of setting boundaries with his mom, and she's incapable of considering anyone's feelings but her own. This past Saturday, he asked if I was still going to my parents', then said he'd like to go with us. I told him he could do whatever he wanted, but since I hadn't done anything for his dad, he might want to go see him or something. We did both end up going to my parents and spending the day with them. It was actually a nice day, my dad insisting on grilling because, of course he did, but the weather ended up being nice and we spent a lot of time hanging out on their deck playing with the little guy. I'm not sure what, if anything, my husband did for his dad. I know he was getting a lot of texts during the day, I assume from his mom. She did send me a snippy text saying it was hurtful to spend the day with my family at the expense of husbands. But I told her she got to spend Mother's Day with her baby boy, so it's only fair that I spend Father's Day with my family. I know my husband was hurt that we didn't acknowledge him for Father's Day, but I told him while we were driving to my parents' house that I'm just matching his energy. I admit that I haven't done anything to de-escalate the trauma, but I'm still just so hurt he continues to prioritize his mom's feelings over our little family. This isn't the first time his mom has done crap like this, and I'm just so tired of it. She always oversteps and insists on doing what she wants. I'm doing better at keeping her at arm's length and holding my own boundaries, but my husband is absolutely incapable of it. No, Opie, I don't think you were the a-hole. You're not wrong for being hurt, and you're not overreacting. You set a simple, clear vision for your first Mother's Day. Your husband let it be hijacked, not by accident, but by default, because he won't hold the line with his mom. And the problem here wasn't the mulch, it's the pattern. His loyalty bends to his mother and not to his family. Now, matching his energy on Father's Day made a big point, but it's not gonna fix the root problem until he steps up and sets boundaries with his mom. And on that note, OP, there's nothing to de-escalate here. It is his job to grow up. So what now? You hold the line. You stay calm. You keep defining what respect looks like for you and make it clear that you won't keep accepting less. And if that fails, then I would suggest you need to consider other options. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. And now let's check out the community comments. 13 Surgeries says, your husband has clearly decided having a pissed off wife is preferable to having a pissed off mother. The very first time he knew his dad had bought 300 bags of mulch, holy frick, does he own Rhode Island or something? Your husband should have said, wish I could help you, but we have plans for Mother's Day. When his mom said it'll only take an hour or two, he should have responded, our plans are all day. The mulch could have waited. Xela38 says, not the a-hole. Look at the shiny spine on you. Your husband should take notes. You're a badass and I wish I had your spunk. Ask him why he'd rather be a good son than a good father. When is his child going to matter more than his mommy's fifi? I'm proud you're not letting her get away with her crap. What about Christmas? Birthdays? And Dopey responds, so far it's been a lot of the same. Technically, we've tried to alternate holidays or celebrate with one of our families on a different day, but his mom calls and texts non-stop if we spend a holiday with my family. I already told him this Christmas we're spending Christmas Day at home, just the three of us. That should be interesting to see what tricks mother-in-law pulls out. Hotaside 4637 says, not the a-hole, but as they say in the Just No Mill sub, you don't have a mother-in-law problem, you have a husband problem. This is only going to continue until he grows his spine. Livid Refrigerator 69 says, not the a-hole. My first Mother's Day, my very ex-husband bought himself a Father's Day card. He pitched a fit when I bought myself a Mother's Day card and a new hairdryer on Father's Day. And Dopey responds, OMG, what the F? My husband can suck sometimes, but generally, when his parents aren't involved, he's good husband and a good dad. Your ex just sounds like such a nightmare. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Well, the community agrees that Opie is not the a-hole and that she's got a husband problem and her mother-in-law sucks. So now, let's continue with the update. I wanted to thank everyone. I have had a lot of people asking for an update, so here we go. This weekend, the husband and I sat down and talked about everything. I expressed to him how incredibly upset and disappointed I was at how both Mother's Day and Father's Day went down. I really wanted to recognize and celebrate my husband for Father's Day every bit as much as I hoped he would recognize and celebrate me for Mother's Day. He said he knew he shouldn't have gone to his parents on Mother's Day, but didn't know what to do since his mom was pressuring him and saying if his dad got hurt, it would be husband's fault. He admitted that he knew he messed up and has been terrified that I was going to ask for divorce. Since he cut to the chase, I told him that if this is how our life is going to be, I don't want to stay married to him. I explained to him that I realized that while, yes, I was upset about what happened on Mother's Day, that isn't what is making me feel this way. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. This kind of behavior from his mom has been happening since before we got engaged and has just escalated. This has been happening for years. As someone here suggested, I had listed all the times and events that I could remember that she had overstepped or just completely ruined. For our freaking honeymoon, she called him twice a day. Every morning to find out our plans for the day, and then every evening to hear how the day went. Plus the constant texting, asking for pictures, telling him how much she missed him. I don't know how I thought this was acceptable. She tried to make our wedding about herself, tried to make my pregnancy about herself, tried to take over when we brought our son home, just constantly inserting herself and overstepping. I told him that I don't really want to get divorced right now, but if it's going to happen anyway, I'd rather get divorced now while we still can do it amicably. Because if nothing changes, I'm going to end up so angry and resentful that it would make divorce very contentious, and I don't want that for our son. At this point, we were both crying, upset, and emotional. So I told him that I'll give him some time to decide what he's going to do. But if I don't see clear effort being made to start prioritizing me and our son, that I'd move forward with a divorce. And the change has to continue. Every time we fought about this in the past, he's promised he'll change, and sometimes he has, but then his mom pulls him back into her orbit. Now, if we are to stay married, these are some of the things I'm insisting on in no particular order. We each own the relationship with our own parents. That means I'm not planning anything for his parents anymore. No cards, no presents, no brunches or parties, no pictures, nothing. If his parents reach out to me, I'm going to redirect them to him. I'm not entertaining or visiting with his parents when he's not around. I'm not taking our son over to theirs by myself. And if they drop by, I'm not inviting them in unless my husband is here. I'm not changing my plans at the last minute just because they decided to drop by without coordinating with us in advance or because they want us to do something with them. Neither of us makes plans with our parents or accepts invitations until we discuss with our partner. And if we don't both agree, then we don't do it. And we don't throw each other under the bus. We just say something like, we checked our schedule and we're not available. Holidays like Christmas, Halloween, Easter, etc. are at our house. We can discuss inviting our parents, but we're not going to someone else's house to celebrate something involving our son when we can do it at home. This includes his first birthday, which mother-in-law is trying to take over and plan. Other holidays we're alternating between our parents, and we will focus on being present. That means no more texting, talking to his mom non-stop when we're with my parents. No more oversharing with mother-in-law. She doesn't need to know about our finances or health or medical issues or vacation plans or anything unless we both agree it's something we want to share. His visits to his parents can't be at the expense of spending quality time with me and our son. I don't mind him visiting his parents, but he's over there a couple times a week. We are his immediate family now. We should get priority. We're not doing things just because she said we should, and we're not changing our plans just because she doesn't like them. She really doesn't understand that wrong and different are not the same thing. In her mind, if we're not doing what she wants, how she wants, then we're in the wrong. He needs to go to therapy with someone specializing in enmeshment, and we need to start going to couples therapy. I didn't even realize I have so much pent-up resentment that I can't look at my husband the same anymore. I'm just angry at him all the time and I hate being this way. When it comes to our son, our word, husband and me, is law. If she disregards or minimizes our decisions for our son, then she loses access until she learns to behave. And when me or my husband say no to either set of parents, the other person will support and back them up. That means my husband has to stop trying to get me to agree with his mom all the time. I can tell he's freaked out and really stressed about the idea of putting hard boundaries in place or distancing from his parents, and I do feel for him. He said he feels like he's caught between a rock and a hard place, and that me and his mom are both putting a ton of pressure on him and both have conflicting expectations, and that's fine. He just needs to understand that I'm not tolerating this anymore. I know this will cause an absolute crapstorm with his parents, but I feel like if we don't do it now, it'll just be harder down the road. Now, admittedly, it is a lot. I wouldn't expect it all at once, but this is where we have to end up and I have to see progress and change. I want him to be successful. I want us to be successful, and I'm willing to put the work in and also help support him, but he will need to do the same. Well, OP, it sounds to me like you have very clear what has to happen in your relationship for it to continue, and I think it is the right thing. You're not demanding anything weird. You're simply demanding that your husband act as a partner and a father like he should. So hopefully he gets his head out of his butt and makes the right choice. In the meantime, OP, the road you've chosen does seem like it's not going to be a short and easy one. So here's wishing you the best in the future. Take care and thanks for sharing. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user HarryMason02. You want me to stop logging bugs? Okay, but don't say I didn't warn you. This happened a couple of years ago when I was working as a QA analyst for a mid-sized software development company. I was part of a Scrum team working on a new feature for a large enterprise client. Our team was made up of the usual suspects: developers, a Scrum Master, a product owner, PO, and myself as the sole QA. Now, I'm a pretty thorough tester. I take pride in not just finding bugs, but documenting them clearly with steps to reproduce, screenshots, logs, you name it. Some developers loved me for it, others not so much. One developer in particular, we'll call him Mike, really hated having bugs logged against his code. He had this passive-aggressive attitude where any issue I found was user error or not a bug. The guy had a serious ego problem and believed his code was flawless. We were getting close to a deadline and I was logging a lot of issues. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to warrant attention. Some were cosmetic, others were functional, but all were valid. Mike didn't like that I was slowing things down. During a sprint planning meeting, Mike went on a mini rant about how QA was bogging the team down with unnecessary bugs and how we shouldn't waste time logging minor issues that don't block functionality. Surprisingly, the PO, who was also feeling the deadline pressure, sided with him. The decision was made. From now on, only log critical or blocker issues. Everything else can be reported informally or ignored. I clarified, so you want me to stop logging non-blocking bugs, even if they're reproducible? The PO says, exactly, let's focus on shipping. You got it, boss. For the next 2 sprints, I only logged blockers, like the app crashes or data corruption level stuff. Everything else I kept to myself. No documentation, no Jira tickets, nada. The release went live. And all hell broke loose. Users were finding buttons overlapping on mobile, broken tooltips, form validation failures, inconsistent date formats, and slow load times on certain views. None of it was technically blocking, but it made the experience feel amateurish. Cue a very uncomfortable post-mortem with the client. The PO asked why none of these issues were found during QA. I just smiled and said they were found, but per your instruction, I didn't log them. Silence. Mike tried to chime in, but the damage was done. Upper management got wind of the fiasco and mandated that all issues, regardless of severity, must be logged going forward. Mike was moved to a different team shortly after, not just because of this, but it didn't help, and I got an apology and a thank you from the PO. Well, OP, they wanted the project to run smoothly into the wall, and that is exactly what they did. Thanks so much for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.